Welcome to the Artist Academy podcast, a place where we focus on the business side of art to help you attract more customers, increase profits, to ultimately live a life of creativity and financial freedom. I'm your host, Andrea Earhart, and this week I am coming at you from a hotel. Actually, we're staying in a castle hotel room. I'm living out all of my princess dreams right now. It's a Spanish castle in LaGuardia, Spain. I forgot to record another episode before we left for our mural meetup in Barcelona, Spain, and I realized it a couple days after the flight. And so I've just been searching for some time, some quiet time to sit down and record a podcast today, all about how to raise your prices or when to know when it's best to raise your prices, even though you're probably scared like I was, and there's a million questions going on in your brain about, am I going to have work if I increase my prices? Am I going to make my current customer mad if I increase my prices? I talk about this with my students a lot because we all come into this art world with one idea in mind about how much we can make and how much we charge and what feels good and how many hours we're willing and how much money per hour, like the whole thing. And then it changes slowly but surely. It changes, and it could change within a couple months, within a couple years. You could increase your price yearly. It doesn't matter. But so just to also give you some perspective, because if you're watching the video, you'll notice the background is a little bit different. So I'm actually in this, like I said, hotel in a castle in Spain, and we just finished up our Barcelona mural meetup where several Artist Academy members came and we painted a giant cheetah mural. If you haven't seen it yet, it's pretty great. It might be my favorite mural I've painted to date, and I am putting it out into the universe to paint more of it. We did this for our mural meetup, and a mural meetup is where I ask members of the Artist Academy to come paint a mural with me, and I teach them realism, spray paint, just whatever they're wanting to learn. And we all paint a mural together and explore a new place, a new country, sometimes just a new state. And we just get some time where we're away from our loved ones, which is really hard. Actually, coming to Spain, it's my first time going this far away from my toddler. And I had almost a mental breakdown before leaving, which is kind of crazy because I've left him several times for short periods to do jobs, whether it's going to Utah or we just had a mural meetup in Mexico and Costa Rica and things like that. But for some reason, going across the pond here to Spain without him for 5 full days was a bit much. I don't know if it was just being so far away, and like if something happened, I would have to take a flight back and it would take me 24 hours to get back at least. Or I don't know, but it was really tough. But I share that because I hear a lot of Artist Academy members, they don't want to do jobs either that are away, or they don't want to come to a meetup, or they don't want to do a lot of things because it's uncomfortable to leave the confines of your home and the safety of the home and the kids there and the people. And it's really hard. And so I just wanted to share that really quick. I don't know. I felt like it because I think my whole life, especially with business and work, is just doing things that make me uncomfortable, but that I know are good for me and my family or the people around me, but mostly myself. Like if I know I'm going to feel good after, but sometimes it doesn't feel good in the moment. And so yeah, I just wanted to say that a little bit because it's all related, right? And raising your prices is kind of like that in a way, sort of. It's really uncomfortable at first, but in the long term, it's totally worth it. So today I have my iPad in hand, and even though I actually don't have my microphone, I should just say that. So this might sound a little bit different because I'm recording it from my phone, no microphone, in a hotel room. So I don't know if it'll sound different, but I feel like we're just going to go with it. But anyway, I have my iPad in hand with some notes for this episode, and I have some questions that I want to ask you. So I'm just going to read from it. And yeah, I answer yes or no to these few questions about your specific art business. Are you wanting to raise your prices but you're scared of the reactions that you might get from friends and family, from current customers, from anybody that's like, say you told somebody the price that you want to charge. How would they react? Would they, in your mind, by the way, this is completely made up, but what would they say? I used to have something in my brain that was like, people would say, who are you to charge that much? Because I grew up in a household where finding a good job that pays the bills and you do your duty to work and you make a decent amount. And it was almost like people who made a lot, it was like they were self-righteous, or they were just, it's like, who are they to make that much money, you know? And so I had a lot of pullback on who the heck am I? When there are people out there who are working maybe a little bit harder, who deserve to make more, but they just aren't charging what they're worth. So why would I charge this much? It's because sometimes it would be 10 times as much as, say, my mom currently makes, or my uncle makes, or whatever. It's like, who am I to ask for this much money? Okay. So again, are you wanting to raise your prices, but you're scared of the reactions you might get? And if you're not, great. Great. Second question. Are you consistent with your promotional efforts? Meaning, you're not just sitting around waiting for somebody to say, hey, I want to give you $100 an hour to work on this project, whether it be a canvas art project or my favorite or murals or whatever. You're not just sitting around and saying, I hope customers find me. Also, I want to say consistent with your promotional efforts means that you are doing outreach, you're applying for art calls, you're posting on social media, whatever your favorite form of consistency with your specific type of marketing is. It could be in person. Maybe you're doing art shows, but are you consistent? Are you consistently putting yourself out there, having conversations, or doing something that could put you in the position to get lucky? Because we all know that, preparation meets opportunity equals luck, right? So are you consistently putting yourself in that luck pool to get that $10,000 mural job? And if you get that $10,000 mural job, are you going to know to price it that high? I think that was my problem back in the day. Looking back, I was so busy back in the day. Oh my gosh, but I didn't make quite as much. And I was like, there's more than a few projects where I settled for $50 an hour. And looking back, I could have at least gotten double of that. Or sometimes I settled for $20 per square foot, where I could have at least gotten $25 or $30 per square foot. But now I know how to price it. And so I could have made more. What was the question again? Oh yeah. Are you consistent with your promotional efforts? Anyway, and then would you know to price it that high? That's kind of how we got there. But answer yes or no. And be honest. Not, am I consistent this week, but then the next 2 weeks I'm not, but then I'm get back on it. It's like, are you consistent the majority of the time? Not every single week, not every single day, but the majority of the time. Next question. Do you have somewhat consistent work coming in the majority of the year? Meaning, you have people contacting you, and it's totally okay if you're getting ghosted. There are ways to get around that. We won't get into that. I'm sure there's another podcast episode about that. But at least you have people reaching out to you, or you're putting yourself in that luck pool and you're getting some opportunities. So the question is, do you have somewhat consistent work coming in the majority of the year? So you're not brand new to where you're not getting anything, but you're not, you don't have to be completely slammed. You don't have to be booked out for months and months. But do you have something planned next week and then the next week? I'd say that is consistent. If you have something planned, if you're currently working on something and you have a commission in line, and then bonus if you have another commission in line, and that's usually how it goes. Even if you have a week in between sometimes, or a customer needs to push it back for construction delays, or hey, they're just not ready, or what, like that's totally fine. As long as there are conversations happening, then that you're good. You're good to go, I think. So I'm kind of giving you a hint, like this, you need to answer yes on this. But if you don't, just answer honestly in yourself for the third question. Okay. Do you feel like you are undercharging and spending way too much time for what your current projects are worth? So this is the fourth question. Are you working on a job right now where you're like, this is taking so much time, I am regretting this a little bit, I like anything but, wow, this feels really good, or yeah, I feel like this is totally worth it, or something along those lines? And it doesn't even have to be the one that you're working on right now, although that would be a really telltale sign, because it's kind of hard to think back and it's kind of hard to know the projects that you have coming in, if they're going to feel good, if you price the one next week, right? Like you don't know until you're in it, and you only figure that out through practice, right? I will say the only thing here is if you are in the beginning of your art career, say you're in the first year, maybe the first 2 years, and you think you price things right, and then you get into it and you're like, this is taking me so long. It's not always the customer needing you to pay more. Sometimes you just need the practice, and you just need to spend those extra hours painting that tree in order to make it look like a tree, or those extra hours fine lining that circle, or whatever, getting those straight outlines. It doesn't even need to be realism. It needs to be something to where it just takes extra time for you to make it look really good. And I say that because now, being 10 plus years in to painting and muraling and doing logos and lettering on all the things, I look back and I'm like, oh no, some of those projects in the early years, especially some of my first lettering jobs and my first landscape jobs, it took me forever to make it look really good. Like I'm talking, I could probably do it in a day now, a full mural, but back then it's 3 or 4 days. But is it fair for me to command high rates that I can now and a good hourly rate, and ask that of my customer, and turn down jobs that aren't going to pay me what Joe down the road is making if I'm not as experienced? So looking back, I totally earned that $20 per hour on that new thing, even if I was making so I was really good at painting kind of abstract stuff, things that weren't super realistic, not lettering, and just things that were really colorful and really fun, like flowers and whatnot, and some animals. I was really good at that. I had like a thing. But ask me to paint a realistic tree scene, it's going to take me a long time. So it's really not fair for me to just over the span of everything ask for, I'm not working for less than $50 an hour or $100 an hour or whatever it is. If there's something that I'm not good at, I'm probably going to spend a lot more time on it, and therefore I'm going to make less. And you can think of it as square foot. I always come back to the hourly rate in my brain, because I look at a project and I think, okay, that's worth that much. I can do that now. Sometimes I'm a little off in one direction or the other. It's really, really nice actually nowadays where I'm not always under guessing. Nowadays, I'm finishing a little bit early, and I am not lost on just how amazing that is right now. I really, really cherish it, because there's so many projects that back in the day I would be like, that's going to take me 2 days. No more. And then I'm on day 3.5 and I'm like, this isn't worth it, blah, blah, blah. But it was really just my skill of even sometimes the knowledge of getting the wrong paint and having to do second and sometimes third coats on something. So I'm just going to give you a little tip here. I have been in love lately with Command by Benjamin Moore. It's a floor paint. It's a lot thicker. The black is a 1 coat. And you can paint on, I've been painting on a lot of, a bunch of different surfaces without primer, because it's a floor paint. It sticks to about everything. But it acts just like a normal latex. It's just a little bit thicker. a little bit richer, like all the colors are the same. I've been painting on silos. I've been painting on cement school walls. I even paint on some metal. Yeah. With before I used to use a direct to metal primer and then it depends. Okay, caveat here. I will do a little test strip and then a few days later try to scrape it off, like try my absolute best to scrape it off. And then if it doesn't come off, then I'll use the command. If it does a little bit, it's being tricky, I'll use a direct to metal primer. Usually I'm really into the sticks primer, and you have to look at the price tag on these. I just did this recently where I went to look at some primers and I was like, oh, this is a good exterior all around primer for like $40. And then I looked to the right and I was like, oh no, this one is specifically for super slick plastic like surfaces. It's $80, double. The price of your primer matters. So tip. So got a little bit off track there, but just saying. Sometimes when you're pricing, it's because we're making mistakes. We haven't learned that. And my biggest tip is just using a paint that doesn't need double the coats, triple the coats. And Command by Benjamin Moore, can't say enough good things about it. And it lasts forever. Like I know when I put this on, it's going to last through, a gym mural, not necessarily on a gym floor. I don't know that I would use that there. It's a floor paint, but not all floors, but all walls, I feel like. But I know that on a gym wall, it's going to last when kids are playing dodgeball and they're just banging those balls up against there. I know it's going to be completely fine. They're going to be able to clean it. It's going to last. Whether it's, interior latex, it will last as well, but not as well. You know what I mean? Okay. So did you answer yes to all of these questions? And the first one is just kind of I'm just getting a feel of it. I'm just making you aware that most people are a little scared to raise your prices, because if you weren't, I don't know that you would be listening to this on my advice. You just raise it. You'd be like, yeah, Andrea, I'm just going to raise my prices. No big deal. But if you're listening to this, you probably want a little bit of clarity, right? So if you answered yes, then I am going to give you the unneeded permission to raise your prices right now. Not at the end of the week, not at the end of the year. This is our business and we can raise whatever we want. Okay, the only thing is if you have currently priced a customer and you're supposed to start the mural and you have it scheduled and they pay the deposit, or you've had a conversation with somebody about, hey, this is going to cost this much, you cannot go back and say, I listened to a podcast and I'm actually going to charge you double now because I feel like this is worth that. You can't do that. Obviously, I'm just making sure. Anyway, if the next person you talk to, if you have an idea in your mind of what you think that they would pay, charge just a little bit more. If you found yourself being on jobs where it's taking a little bit longer or you feel like it's not worth it and you feel like your skill is pretty much there, but you're not hitting that 100K a year, I want to say the biggest thing is probably raising your prices. Because as a reformed workaholic, I'm a mom now, so I feel like being a workaholic now would just be detrimental to my health and I wouldn't get the quality time with my son and just all the things. But I am a reformed workaholic. I used to take my iPad and my computer everywhere. I don't have my computer, but I have my iPad here. And I used to take it on just weekend trips because you never know. You never know when I'm going to have some time where I can do this, and that, because there's always something to do, right? Especially when you have so many projects coming in and you need to do so many sketches and you need to send so many emails and have so many conversations and send so many invoices and just there's so much. And if you have so much going on, then I'm giving you the unneeded permission to raise your prices right now. Some people will back away and some people will say that's a little bit too much, but I promise as long as you're not like tripling your prices or maybe doubling, I don't know, it just depends, but you will get jobs. If you are consistent with your efforts, if you have consistent work throughout the year, if you are trying, that's my thing here. Like if I ask you, hey, are you really trying? And you're like, yes. I ask these questions because sometimes I have conversations with people and they're like, nothing's working, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, how much are you posting on social media? They're like, well, like, I don't want to bug people. And like, I'm really bad at editing video, and I really don't like to put myself on camera. So I don't do stories. And it's like, there's a lot of excuses there. And I'm like, oh, wait. So you're like having a battle in your head, and that feels like it's trying, right? But you're not actually physically online in person doing stuff. You're just like making up all the excuses of why it's really hard and how it's like making you really uncomfortable. And I totally get the step-by-step thing. Like, start posting a little bit here, apply for an art call here and there, send out a couple outreach emails, like, and then up it, right? Up it a little bit more to where then you're finally consistent. If I had to say what consistent was, I would say, I don't know, 3, if you're at least posting 3 or 4 times on social media, I'd say 3 being the least amount in a week. I think it's a really good habit to get into, to post every single day for 5 days, 7 days at the most. I know some creators who post 4 times a day, and they are just flying. They have a thing to where in the morning, they will post something, in the afternoon, they'll post something, and it's just with that amount of practice, promoting their business in all different ways. Sometimes they do a carousel, sometimes they do a video, sometimes they do this and that. Like, people don't get tired of looking at art. They just don't. I try to get into the habit of posting one project 4 different times. I don't post 4 times a day, not even close to it. I'd say I post maybe 4 times a week. And so if I work on one project for the week, I will try to post it 4 different times, meaning I'll do a video. I'll do like a full video, like start to finish, like the full thing. I'll do a trick video, which is you just stand in front of it, a blank wall, clap, and it's done, right? Easy. I'll do a carousel. Those are really big right now, especially if you do multiple photos and videos. People like flipping through, and that's the more time people are spending on your posts, and Instagram knows that, and blah, blah, blah. And then there's another one. I don't know. Stories I'm really inconsistent with. I don't know. I feel like stories are kind of the bonus, but posting on your feed where the majority of people see it, I think that's where it's at. Because I tested this recently, and I posted a photo of a cow that I wanted to paint on my story. And because I was kind of scared of posting it on my feed for some reason. I don't know. It was something I hadn't done before. And so I posted it on my story and said, I really want to paint something like this. And I had a couple bites. I had a couple friends be like, hey, I'm going to show this to this farmer. Hey, I'm going to show this. I was like, okay. But nothing came of it. And so a couple of weeks later, I was like, yeah, freak it. Okay, fine. I'm just going to post it and say that I want to paint this cow with a flower crown. And I got an immediate job from it. I'm talking like within a couple hours. Like, okay, story is good, but actual things on your feed is better. Another question that I get quite a bit is, should you send out a newsletter? Should you announce that you are raising your prices? Should you announce anything? And I say absolutely not. Nothing. Not even if you are like, hey, I'm going to have a minimum of $200, $500, whatever it is. I think my first minimum, I started at $200. And I remember a friend-ish came asking, because I had a bunch of requests for people wanting stuff like shoes painted, or just small things like a pet portrait that was just really, really small. Like basically they want to be cheap and they want a picture of their pet, but they don't want to pay very much and blah, blah. And I remember the first time I said, hey, no, my minimum is $200 now. And he made fun of me. He was like, oh, okay. Well, and I was like, oh my gosh. He thinks I'm too uppity, because that's a fear that I have, right? Like I explained with the who does she think she is kind of a thing. I have that because I've had friends from the past tell me, like from the small town that I lived in, tell me that I'm too good for them now, because I'm busy and I'm doing things and I'm traveling and I'm doing things that people from my hometown just usually don't do. And I didn't really want to hang out with them as much. They weren't really supportive, like at times in my life. And I was just like, so like they called me too good. Right. And so that was just like twice. I've had people twice now. Two good friends tell me that I'm showing off because I'm showing off my travels. And it like ingrained in me to where it was really hard for me to do things like raise my prices and show up in other ways. Like even last year, I was like, no, I don't want to post travel videos. Like people know I'm traveling. And I'm just like, where is this coming from? And I got to the root of it and I was like, oh, it's coming from those two really good friends separately who did this and told me this because of whatever reason they had in their head. Is it true? I don't think so. I just like posting pretty pictures and showing people that I'm doing cool things. Like, yes, I want to show off. And is that bad? I don't know. But it's something that I've battled. And so I share that because, is there something that you're battling? Is there somebody that something that somebody said to you one time where you're like, oh, I can't do this because of that. I can't raise my prices because there are starving children in Africa. And that is also a thing on my brain because I'm going to do a whole other podcast about my experience going to Africa and painting with orphans in an orphanage and do it. Like it put a whole different thing on my, like I came back feeling disgusting for my privilege and just so bad and just like, what the heck? And like, so that also compiled into my, like, I have so many things in my head that are saying, why, like, who am I to raise my prices? But I did. And now I'm able to have way more time with my toddler and stay in places like this. I'm literally staying in a castle, like, and my husband works too. It's not just my art income, but it's the freedom that I've gotten from being able to say no to small projects and raise my prices and have confidence in my ability to deliver on a really good project. And also another huge thing is just, had so much practice now that I can complete things really quickly and that raises the rate. And so I get to spend time doing other things. So I'm at towards the end of our 100K in 100 days thing. And I'm going to tease you with this, but I'm going to do a whole other podcast and tell you how close or how far above or right at, or I'm going to tell you my results of it in probably the next podcast. But things like that, doing 100K in 100 days and doing challenges like this has made it to where I'm able to live life. We're spending almost 2 weeks in Spain, one for the mural meetup, and then another we're just going around. Like, so we're in LaGuardia, Spain right now, staying. I'm just going to tell you I'm staying in a castle more times because this is just like, this is my dream. There's like a bathtub right over here that me and my son like took a bubble bath, and there's just like the view, and it's just so great. And if anything, this was a reminder of like when new customers reach out to me, it's like, no, charge what it's worth. Because being in small town Midwest, it's really easy to get caught up in the, doing people favors and playing a little bit smaller and not charging because maybe people can't afford it, or like, no, there's so many things that are causing me to, raise my prices slowly but surely. So I guess the next step would be, how much do you raise your prices? I first want to just say or ask you to put a number in your brain of what do you want to charge? And if you do by square foot, if you do by hour, like that doesn't really matter. How much do you want to make? And I had a number in my head early on whenever I first started painting, when I was about 23, 24, I heard that there were other artists making $100 per hour. And I was like, oh my gosh, when I am 70 years old, I want to be able to do that. Well, I come on here sharing now that I am 35. And for the past couple years, or maybe a little bit more, few years, I've definitely been making over $100 an hour. Right now, I'd say it's probably about $200 to $250. And because of my consistent promotional efforts, I'm able to get that regularly, but I am telling a lot of people no. And I talk about pricing a lot on social media, or I talk about this subject, and I do a lot of bigger stuff. And so I notice I'm not really getting the small jobs anymore. And I'm like, part of me is like, like, do people not want me to pay for them? Like, I have like a little bit, but then overall, I kind of have to make myself come back and be like, oh, no, this is really nice, because it's kind of hard to say no to the small stuff if it's something I really like. Or it feels better if I have people be like asking me for things over again. But I just had a meeting with a customer recently, and because I got tagged in their thing, and she was like, honestly, like, I know you, I've been following you for years. I just didn't want to reach out to you because I didn't think that this was like, I didn't think I could afford you. And I was like, oh, thank you. But also, let me just give you a quote and we'll figure it out. If you can't, that's okay. It's just, I don't know. There's like good and bad coming with it, but it's just, again, it's a mental thing. It's all good. It's all good. But it's so weird charging more. I wish I could just tell you that, hey, yes, charge more now. And like, but it's like, it's such a mental block, because even you listening, even if you really should charge more, there's going to be a voice inside your head that's saying, but this, or but that. And so I want to like just bring to the forefront that but in your mind and have you confront it and rationalize with it, and maybe just try to raise your prices if you're ready. Okay, that's all I have for you today. I am going to go out and play with my son. There's a winery right down the street, and my husband and I are going to go do a wine tasting in Spain. So basically we're taking my son to a wine tasting. Yeah. Well, I feel like when you have one child, whatever, he loves it. Anyway, we have two more mural meetups coming up. One is in St. Croix of the Virgin Islands. It is April 1st through the 6th. And we currently right now have one spot available left. I don't know if we'll have any more by the time, the day after this airs, but if you're listening to this and you want to come on one of our fun trips and paint a mural in another country and be taught spray, and we're going to do spray gun, spray paint, and then some latex to top it off with. And we're going to do an underwater scene in that one. But then after that, we have the Missouri Mural Meetup. Not as cool as Spain or St. Croix, Virgin Islands or whatnot, but we teach a lot of fundamentals there. Like how to operate a lift, how to work a spray gun, how to project. Like, it's like from basics. The Missouri one is the bare basics minimum. If you ever have wanted to learn how to paint murals and be safe about it and just get some experience and come learn from me at my house in Missouri, we are going to be painting a Welcome to Rogersville mural that I'm designing in my hometown. And if you would like to come and learn, there is a link. It's actually artistacademy.co/mural meetup info. Or yeah, I'm going to say you can go to .com, but I haven't done all the web links yet. But anyway, there's a link here. You can go to our Artist Academy Mural Meetup page and see all of the upcoming meetups. By the way, we are going to come back to Barcelona, Spain. We have another wall that we're going to be painting maybe like 2027 or late 2026 or whatever. But if you're listening to this way late, then you can go to that page and all of the updated mural meetup info will be there. So I hope you would like to join us. And yeah, okay, I'm going to go drink some wine. Thanks for listening. Hopefully the audio is great, but this is what I got. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Artist Academy podcast. I so appreciate you tuning in every week, and I would also appreciate if you could do me a very small favor and possibly share this episode either on social media. You can tag me or even just write me a note in my DMs saying what you liked about the podcast, what you want to see more of, anything. I love getting any and every feedback, especially in the form of a review, 5 stars only. That's all we accept on Apple or Spotify. And just any kind of positive feedback whatsoever. It really makes everything worth it. Me sitting down to create this absolutely free podcast full of art and business content. And I also wanted to throw this out there that if you are not where you want to be currently in your art business, if you're stuck at a boring job that just sucks the creativity out of you and you don't have time to paint and you're wanting to go full time with some kind of way of painting or murals or something, anything other than where you're at, trust me, I know the feeling and I know how much it can affect the rest of your life. And I know what's on the other side of it. There's a lot of hard work and there's a lot of tips and tricks in the middle, but that's why I created the Artist Academy membership. It's only $37 a month, and it takes artists from aspiring or beginner to full-time and up to 6 figures. I've helped more artists than I can count or think of at the moment quit their jobs and go full time into painting. And I can help you too. It's such a crazy, confusing, tough time, especially in that first year. That's why I specialize in helping artists within that first year of business, because that's the hardest part, taking the first step, figuring out how to get those first couple clients. And then we work from there. I've helped multiple artists reach even the 6-figure mark, and I can help you too. If you're ready to make 2025 the year that you finally go full time into the creative industry and make good money with your art, and I want to invite you into the Artist Academy membership to view my over 100 plus art and business tutorials. There's everything from how to paint large scale to how to make a marketing plan for this year. And every single month I update it with new content of what's working right now, what's working on social media, what are the things that I'm doing, specific things with templates, with email scripts, with all the things that you need, that you just go right over the headache of it all, and I just give it to you, and you make it your own, and you grow your own unique art business the way you want to. Inside the membership, I open up my business and show you what I'm pricing per job, how the job went, what I learned from it, how I got that customer, and how I'm repeating that over and over again to build a 6-figure plus consistent art business for the last 10 years. I think I've been doing this for about 10 years and teaching for almost 6 years. Crazy. So I've heard it all. I've heard all of the excuses, all the hurdles, and I can help you through them. They say a mentor can see your future a lot more clearly than you can. That's why you hire one, because when you're going through the tough times and thinking that you can't do it, I'm here and I know you can, and I can help you get around that hurdle and reach to the next hurdle and then the next one. And then, yeah, so $37 a month. Go to artistacademy.co to join. There are no minimums. Cancellation is super easy. Stay as long as you want, gather as much as you want, and grow your business as much as you want this year. Go to artistacademy.co to join the membership.